Hello friends! I've really enjoyed making some stickers for myself and for some friends to hand out at conventions, so I wanted to share how I make them. Here's a few examples of stickers that I have made, including the one that I will demonstrate how to make today, the Noble of Death 16 sticker. Stickers are a great handout to have at conventions. They're a good way to remind folks of your social media handles while giving them a fun memento keepsake. They're also a lot of fun to trade with friends. These stickers are entirely homemade. The drawings were created by me in Photoshop, they were printed out on an inkjet printer, and they were cut out with a Cricut vinyl cutter. If you don't have some of these tools, don't worry, I'll give you some alternatives to these methods, so you'll still be able to create some really cool cosplay stickers. By the way, there is a written version of this tutorial available on the 405th, and I got that linked in the video description. It'll be there for you if you're more of a learn by read type of person rather than watching a video. Digital drawing. The first thing we must do is to create digital art that we want to print on our stickers. If you're an artist, this is your time to shine. Use whatever digital art program you prefer to create a representation of your character that you want to put on your stickers. If you're not an artist, like me, you still have a few options. You can commission an artist to create artwork of your character, you can commission someone to trace a photo of your character, or what I like to do is to trace the character myself. Tracing the character myself is the fastest and cheapest option, and it still gives me complete control over the look of the sticker. And it's not hard, I'll show you how to do it. Begin by opening the drawing program of your choice. For this tutorial, I'll be showing you how I trace my characters in Photoshop. You'll be able to follow a similar process in other programs, however. Open Photoshop. Create a new document. Make it 8.5 inches wide and 11 inches tall. Use a resolution of 300 pixels per inch. You could set the background as white or leave it blank, it really doesn't matter. I have these settings saved under a profile for easy access. We'll be creating this sticker for our very own Noble of Death 16, the 405th Infantry Division PR at the time of writing, and Midwest RCO. As I said earlier, I traced the photos to create the illustrations you see on the stickers. Therefore, we will need a reference to trace over. Noble of Death sent over this photo that he wanted me to trace. This photo is pretty good, but I wasn't completely satisfied with the position of the sword off to one side. Therefore, I elected to trace over in-game assets to create the drawing. Unfortunately, the helmet Noble of Death wears is not available in the game with this specific armor coating, at least not to my knowledge, but I will show you how to deal with that later. This is the screenshot that I will be tracing. Begin by adding this screenshot to the Photoshop document on a new layer and decreasing the opacity to about 50%. Create another new layer called Outline. Hit the B key on your keyboard to select the brush tool. Select a hard round brush with a size of about 9 pixels. Using your mouse or a drawing tablet, carefully trace the notable geometry of the armor. Tip: increase the smoothing setting to create smoother curves. I usually set it to about 35%. Tip: create straight lines by drawing a dot at a starting point and then shift-clicking on the end point. A perfectly straight line will be drawn between the 2 points. Continue tracing the armor until you have a complete outline. I ran into a bit of a problem with Noble of Death's helmet, as I mentioned I would earlier. He wears a different helmet in real life than I have on my in-game screenshot. So, to fix this, I took a screenshot of the correct helmet with a different armor coating, and I traced that over top of the original screenshot. You should now have a complete outline of your character, and we can begin working on the color. Create a new layer called Color Reference, and paste the screenshot or photo of your character on it. Place the image off to one side where it will not interfere with our coloring, but where we could still see it to select colors from. Then, create another new layer below the outline layer and call it Color. Let's fill our character with white to begin. First, hide the background layer. Use W to select the Magic Wand tool. With the outline layer selected, and select all layers unchecked, select the area outside of your character. Go to Select, Modify, Expand, and expand the selection by 2 pixels. Use Ctrl-Shift-I to invert the selection. Select white from the color selector. Go to the color layer, and then use G to use the paint bucket tool and fill the selection with white. Ctrl-D will deselect. You have now filled your character with white, and this is what your canvas should look like. Now let's start coloring. On the color layer, use W to select the Magic Wand tool. Turn on Sample All Layers at the top of the screen. Select the areas of the drawing that you will want to be one particular color. Say, for example, the sword will all be the same color of blue. Select the color from your color reference using the eyedropper tool or by using the color picker. You may now think that we could simply use the paint bucket to fill the selection, but there's a little problem with that. Sometimes the selection does not go right to the black line and it can leave behind a space that will be left white. To avoid this, we first have to go to Select, Modify, Expand to expand the selection by about 2 pixels. Now we could use the paint bucket to fill in the selection. Tip: create a hotkey to quickly access the Expand Selection dialog box. You'll be using it a lot. I've set mine to F1, for example. To make minor adjustments to a selected color, use Ctrl-U or go to Image, Adjustments, Hue/Saturation and move the hue slider. Once you're happy with the color you've drawn, you could use Ctrl-D to deselect that area. Then continue using the magic wand, eyedropper, color selector, expand selection tool, and paint bucket tool to color in the rest of the image. To quickly create this geometric camouflage pattern shown here, use the polygonal lasso tool to select complex shapes and then fill them with color. Now this is a bit of a longer tip, but if you find yourself needing to draw an energy sword, here is a way that I found to draw it quite nicely. Select the blue area of the sword, that is, up until this point, one solid color. I'm going to make the main color a little lighter here. Invert the selection using Ctrl-I and expand the selection by about 25 pixels. Invert the selection again, and then create a new layer called Energy Sword and fill the selection with a darker blue. Use Ctrl-D to deselect. Blur the layer by going to Filter, Blur, Gaussian Blur, and set the blur to about 25. Create a new layer called Lightning. Use the hard round pressure size brush and draw lightning-like lines along the sword in white. Apply a blur of about 3 to this layer. Now, the entirety of the character has been filled with color. To give our solid color a bit more depth, let's add some shadows. Create a new layer above the color layer, but below the outline layer, and set the blending mode to multiply. Select the character by using the magic wand tool, sampling all layers, selecting the blank part of the canvas, expanding the selection, and then inverting the selection. You may need to use the lasso tool to clean up the selection a bit. Use B to use the brush tool, then select a soft round brush. Select a brush size of about 40, and then from the color picker, select black. You can now draw over all of the major lines of the character to create more depth. You can control the intensity of the shadows by adjusting the opacity of this layer. Draw shadows all over the whole character. Now let's make the background. Now your background's going to be much different than mine, so I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time on how I made this one. The important part is that you want to make it on a new layer below everything and give it a black stroke like the rest of the art. Next, I created a banner for the text to go over. Over top of everything, I created a new layer and colored the banner with the brush tool. Over top of that, I created another new layer and used the text tool to add Noble of Death's name in Montserrat font, I believe it's called. Control-click on the text layer to select it, then go to the FX button and select Gradient Overlay. Adjust the colors to create a suitable gradient that matches the color scheme of the sticker, and you can add a stroke by going to the FX button again and hitting Stroke. I made mine 6 pixels, black, and centered. You could also choose to add a drop shadow to the text to give it some more depth. Lastly, let's create a white stroke around everything, so that it's not noticeable if the stickers are not cut perfectly. Using the Object Selection tool or the Magic Wand tool, and sampling all layers, select everything. Create a new layer underneath everything and fill it with a solid color. In this case, I just used black. Then go to the FX button and add a stroke. Create a thick white stroke around everything. I set mine to a width of about 100 pixels. Save the file as a PNG by going to File, Save As, PNG, and then you could go ahead and open it up. And that is how you can create your very own illustrations of a character by tracing an in-game screenshot or photo. Now let's recall all of the steps that we've taken up until this point. First, we imported our reference image, we traced the outline, we filled it with color, created the shadows, drew the background, added text and a banner, and then added white stroke around everything. Great, now that we have the image we want to turn into a sticker, let's actually work on printing and cutting the stickers. I'll be using the Cricut Maker 3 as it has print then cut functionality. Any vinyl cutter that has print then cut functionality, and even some that don't, if you could find a workaround to that, will do the job. If you don't have your very own Cricut machine, consider looking into if your public library has one, looking into if there's a makerspace in your community with a vinyl cutter, or if there's a business that will rent you a machine. Cricut machines and other vinyl cutters are often used by hobbyists and have been for some time, so you may be surprised that even your small town likely has a place where you can rent a machine. If you're not keen on cutting the stickers yourself, you could also hire a sticker manufacturer to make your stickers. I prefer to make them myself as it allows me to really tune the quality of the print, the size, and the shape of the sticker, and it allows me to make as many or especially as few stickers as I want without having to worry about minimum order sizes. I'll be demonstrating how I make my stickers on a Cricut vinyl cutter, but the process will likely be similar for other brands. I'll assume you already have your Cricut machine set up, and that you have the Cricut Design Space installed on your computer. Begin by launching the Cricut Design Space. Create a new project. Now we want to make as many of these stickers as possible on a single page, so I've made an SVG template that you could download as a positioning guide. This template is for standard letter-sized paper. To add it to your canvas, first download it. There's a link to it in this video description. Then, in the Cricut Design Space, go to Upload, Upload Image, Browse, Print Then Cut Template, Open, Upload, select the template, and add it to Canvas. You will see that your template has been added to your canvas, and now you can see how much space you have to work with. Now let's add our sticker image. Go to Upload, Upload Image, Browse, select your sticker, Complex, Continue, Apply and Continue, Print Then Cut Image, Upload, select your image, Add to Canvas. Now you can adjust the size using the boxes at the top of the screen, and duplicate and rotate the sticker to fill the page. I figure 8.5 centimeters wide is optimal for these stickers. You will have to determine this number by trial and error, and by deciding how large or small you want your stickers to be. Ensure that your stickers do not go into the red area of the template, otherwise you won't be able to fit them on one page. Seeing as this page could look similar upside down, I'll also add some print then cut text to the middle to make sure I orient it correctly. Select the guide template, and then from the operation drop-down, select Guide. This will make sure the guide is not printed. Now, to make sure we print everything as we see it on the guide, we have to attach everything. Use Ctrl-A to select all, and then select Attach. Now we have our stickers laid out, and we can print them. Select Make. Save the project if you've not done so already. Seeing as we've already laid out the stickers how we want to print them, we could just go ahead and hit Continue here. Next, hit Send to Printer. Printing is the part of making stickers that requires the most trial and error. For printing, I'll be using this Epson inkjet printer. Before printing, I make sure the printer is powered on and has ink. I also load my sticker paper into the drawer and select Premium Semi-Gloss paper settings on the printer. I print on label paper from Online Labels. I buy weatherproof matte for inkjet. The reason I use matte paper but select semi-gloss settings on the printer is because sometimes there is yellowing on the white parts of the sticker with the matte settings. This is something you'll have to experiment with as all printers are different. Make sure to load the paper into the printer so that we print on the label side, not the backing side. This is also different for all printers, so you'll have to experiment to see which way you need to load the paper. Back on your computer, select your printer from the drop-down menu. Deselect Add Bleed and enable Use System Dialog. Then hit Print. Now, to make sure your system dialog has the most settings available to you, make sure you've properly installed your printer's driver. If you simply set up your printer without installing the manufacturer's driver, you will only have limited settings available to you in the system dialog. When the system dialog opens, use trial and error to determine the best settings to print with. Here you can see I set the brightness to 15, contrast to 5, and saturation to 5. But I found that a more optimal setting for this sticker is closer to a brightness of 10, contrast to 15, and saturation of 5. Again, this is something you'll have to use trial and error to determine. When first printing, only print pages one at a time to make sure you're happy with the quality. Only after you've determined the best setting should you print multiple pages at the same time. Select Print to begin the printing process. Now, if you've set your printer to high quality like me, it'll probably take quite some time to print the page. Prepare the medium strength cutting mat. I tape mine to the table to make sure it doesn't shift. Note that I'm using the metric side of this mat, so the top will be this way. Lay the paper on the cutting mat and ensure it's fully flat using a squeegee with a felt side. Note that the top is in line with the top of the cutting mat. To laminate the sheet, I use Avery 9x12 self-adhesive laminating sheets. I'll need to trim them before applying them, however. Note the side of the paper that has this removable tab, and be sure not to trim this side. I trimmed the laminating sheet to about 8 by 10.5 inches. Line up the laminating sheet to cover all of the stickers, then pull off the tab and stick it to the sheet. Then pull off the rest of the backing, using a squeegee to make sure that it's immediately pressed flat against the page with no air bubbles. Remove the tape that holds the cutting mat to the table, and insert the cutting mat to the Cricut machine, making sure you insert the top first. Tip: sometimes laminating can cause issues with the sensors used to find the print then cut markings. If laminating the entire sheet is problematic, consider laminating only the sticker area, cutting around the print then cut markings. Back on Cricut Design Space, I've bookmarked the heavy cardstock material. Select this material and choose default pressure. Load the cutting tools in the machine as prescribed by the software, and when ready, hit the load button on the Cricut machine. When the start button flashes, hit it. Now wait for the machine to cut out the stickers. When the machine is finished, hit the unload button. Peel away the excess material and use a pick to remove the stickers. Inspect the quality and size of the stickers and make adjustments to the next batch as needed. Here you can see that I made the stickers a bit too bright, so for the next batch I'll reduce the brightness and raise the contrast a little bit. But that's how I make my stickers. Here's a little recap for using the vinyl cutter. Create a project with a template in the cutting software, add and arrange your stickers, send the stickers to your printer, laminate the sheet and stick it to a cutting mat, set the cutter settings, and then cut out the stickers and remove the excess material. Final thoughts. These stickers have a very bright and glossy finish. They hold well, they're resistant to water and weather, and they're super customizable. I've had a sticker stuck to the back of my phone for the better part of 8 months, and it's still holding strong. And it's seen hot days, cold days, as well as rain. I love handing these stickers out to people at conventions to remember who I am and what my social media tags are. If you have access to tools to make your own stickers, I highly suggest giving it a try because they are a lot of fun to make and give away. Even if you aren't able to make your stickers completely from scratch, having unique stickers to trade with friends is really fun. Look at how many I've collected on my toolbox. And I hope that with this tutorial, I'm able to collect even more. If you have any questions at all, please leave a comment on this video or reply in the thread for this tutorial. Also, you could post pictures of your stickers in the 405th thread for this video as well. It'll act as an inspiration repository for all of our future sticker makers. I hope you found this tutorial helpful, I hope you learned something, or at the very least, I hope you found it entertaining. That's all from me, Nate Tab, out.